Welcome to Volume 2 of Sleep Bites. I'm Henry E. Ferguson, and I will be telling you science fiction stories that you can calmly fall asleep to. Get to know Marcus, the last gardener. Listen to a tale of code and mercy, and a bite-sized story of electric hearts. My stories are never too long, just enough to help you drift off without care. Shut your eyes, breathe slow, and let my voice guide you. Marcus Thane wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked the greenhouse temperature controls. The recycled air tasted metallic, but beneath it lingered the sweet vanilla scent of crystal orchids. For 27 years, these flowers had been his only cargo, his only purpose. The comm unit crackled. "Captain Thane, this is Kes Vorthak of the Merchant Consortium. I'm approaching with a business proposition." "Not interested," Thane muttered, adjusting the humidity settings. The orchids pulsed with soft blue light, each one containing the complete genetic record of a dead civilization. 43 worlds, reduced to flowers no bigger than his thumb. "Captain, I insist you hear me out. My clients in the bioreconstruction industry would pay handsomely for those specimens." Thane's jaw tightened. He'd heard about the reconstruction industry, turning extinct species DNA into luxury pets and designer organs for the wealthy. "I said no. 10 million credits per orchid. That's 430 million total." The number made him pause. The remembrance needed new fuel cells, and the life support systems were failing. But he looked at the center orchid, the one labeled Anna in his daughter's childish handwriting, and shook his head. "Doc, if you want." Answer still no. An hour later, Vorthak stood in his greenhouse. Her pale skin had an oily sheen, and her smile never reached her eyes. She examined the orchids like a jeweler appraising diamonds. "Extraordinary preservation, Captain. Though I must ask, why keep them locked away? These could help advance medical science, create new agricultural strains, even resurrect entire ecosystems. They're not for sale. Everything is for sale, Captain, even grief." She touched the glass case holding Anna's orchid. "Your daughter's genetic pattern could help cure Kelman's syndrome. Wouldn't she want that?" Thane's hand moved to his sidearm. "Get out." Vorthak raised her hands. "Very well, but before I go, you should see this." She activated a holo projector. The image showed a prison complex on Maros 3. Through the static, Thane could see faces. Human faces, scarred and aged, but alive. The timestamp showed current date. "Survivors from Kepler's ring," Vorthak said, whisper, softly. 218 people you left behind. They've been in hegemony labor camps for 27 years. Thane's knees buckled. There was Sarah Chen, the pilot he'd ordered to evacuate civilians while he grabbed the orchids. There was Commander Davis, who'd held the defensive line so Thane could escape. "No," he whispered. They were confirmed dead. The whole sector was glassed. The hegemony lied. They've been using them for mining operations. Vorthak's voice turned businesslike. "I can arrange their release. I have connections. But I need something valuable to trade." Thane stared at Sarah Chen's face on the screen. She looked so old, so tired. He remembered her, laughing at his jokes in the officers' mess. Remembered promoting her just weeks before the attack. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I'm offering you a choice, Captain. Keep your flowers and let those people die in the mines, or give them to me and save who you couldn't save before." Thane turned to the orchids. Each label bore a name: New Kepler, Sakura Prime, Heaven's Gate. Dead worlds he'd catalogued and preserved while their people burned. At the center sat Anna's orchid, glowing brightest of all. He picked up the plasma cutter from his workbench. The safety clicked off with a soft beep. "Captain," Forthak stepped back. "What are you doing?" "Making a choice." He activated his comm unit and started recording. "This is Captain Marcus Thane. I'm transmitting coordinates for a hegemony prison camp on Maros 3. 218 survivors from Kepler's ring need immediate rescue." "The orchids are my price," Forthak shouted. "Without them I can't." "Then you'd better find another way." Thane raised the plasma cutter. "Because I'm done trading lives for flowers." The cutter's beam was brilliant white. The first orchid vaporized instantly, its preservation case melting into slag. Then the next and the next. 27 years of careful cultivation destroyed in seconds. Forthak screamed, lunging for the cutter, but Thane shoved her back. When he reached Anna's orchid, he hesitated. His daughter had been 7 when she'd helped him plant this one, carefully placing the seed in nutrient gel with her small fingers. "I'm sorry, baby," he whispered, "but they're still breathing." The final orchid disappeared in a flash of heat and light. Forthak fled, cursing about lawsuits and guild violations. Thane didn't care. He set the distress beacon to broadcast on all frequencies, then sat in the empty greenhouse and waited. 3 days later, a coalition rescue ship responded to his message. 2 weeks after that, the first reports came through. The prisoners had been liberated. Sarah Chen was alive. They were all coming home. Thane understood there would be consequences. The guild would strip his license. Forthak would have him blacklisted. But as he swept up the ashes of the crystal orchids, he felt something he hadn't experienced in 27 years. Peace. He'd finally learned the difference between preserving the dead and saving the living. And somewhere in the greenhouse debris, a single seed, knocked loose during Forthak's struggle, rolled into a crack in the floor plating. It would stay there, dormant but alive, carrying both memory and possibility into an uncertain future. The distress signal hit Maya's cybernetic arms like acid. Her mentor's voice crawled through her neural networks, each word a hot needle behind her eyes. The desert air tasted like copper and burnt plastic as she yanked back on the reins, her solar horse snorting clouds of hot steam that smelled like motor oil and lightning. Through her enhanced optics, she spotted it, the Phantom's red code signature pulsing on the horizon like a bloody heartbeat. 5 years of hunting, 273 days, 14 hours, every second carved into her memory bank since Tommy died. And now Kowalski's emergency beacon screamed from the same coordinates. Maya's chrome and flesh fingers traced the badge clipped to her leather duster. Sheriff of Sector 7, defender of the last free server farms between here and New Francisco. The old code of the desert lawman: protect the innocent, preserve the data streams, maintain the balance between flesh and silicon. She'd sworn that oath with her hand on Kowalski's antique keyboard, back when she still believed in justice instead of revenge. Her solar horse, a hybrid marvel of bioengineering and photovoltaic cells, shifted nervously beneath her. Through their neural link, she felt its fear crawling under her skin like electric spiders. The animal's chrome hooves sparked against the sand, each step ringing like a church bell in the empty wasteland. Even it could sense what lay ahead. "Boss, your signal's breaking up. Talk to me." Maya's voice cut through the static. The pause stretched long enough for her to calculate 17 different scenarios, all of them bad. Then Kowalski's voice came through, weak but still carrying that stubborn Polish accent that had talked her through her first cybernetic installation. "Maya, listen good, kiddo. Cooling systems failing. Old cowboys ready to ride that final trail." "Cut that garbage, old man." Maya's jaw tightened hard enough to activate the pressure warnings in her mandibular implants. She remembered the first time he'd called her daughter, standing in his doorway 3 days after Tommy's funeral, her remaining biological arm still bandaged, nowhere else to go. He'd taken one look at her and said, "Come in, daughter. Let's see what we can salvage." Stubborn as always, his chuckle dissolved into static. The server farm rose from the desert like the bones of some ancient beast, its cooling towers belching white steam into the noon sky. But it was the figure standing before it that made Maya's breath catch. The phantom materialized from the heat shimmer, not quite solid, not quite code. It looked like smoke made of broken mirrors, the air around it crackling with electricity that made her teeth ache and her hair stand on end. When it finally took shape, it wore Tommy's face. Not perfectly, the features shifted and flickered, sometimes showing the 16-year-old boy who'd stolen her French fries, sometimes revealing the raw code beneath. But close ec. The distress signal hit Maya's cybernetic arms like acid. Her mentor's voice crawled through her neural networks, each word a hot needle behind her eyes. The desert air tasted like copper and burnt plastic as she yanked back on the reins. Her solar horse, clouds of hot steam that smelled like motor oil and lightning. Through her enhanced optics, she spotted it, the phantom's red code signature pulsing on the horizon like a bloody heartbeat. 5 years of hunting, 273 days, 14 hours. Every second carved into her memory bank since Tommy died. And now Kowalski's emergency beacon screamed from the same coordinates. Maya's chrome and flesh fingers traced the badge clipped to her leather duster, Sheriff of Sector 7, defender of the last free server farms between here and New Francisco. The old code of the desert lawman: protect the innocent, preserve the data streams, maintain the balance between flesh and silicon. She'd sworn that oath with her hand on Kowalski's antique keyboard, back when she still believed in justice instead of revenge. Her solar horse, a hybrid marvel of bioengineering and photovoltaic cells, shifted nervously beneath her. Through their neural link, she felt its fear crawling under her skin like electric spiders. The animal's chrome hooves sparked against the sand, each step ringing like a church bell in the empty wasteland. Even it could sense what lay ahead. "Boss, your signal's breaking up. Talk to me." Maya's voice cut through the static. The pause stretched long enough for her to calculate 17 different scenarios, all of them bad. Then Kowalski's voice came through. Weak, but still carrying that stubborn Polish accent that had talked her through her first cybernetic installation. "Maya, listen good, kiddo. Cooling system's failing. Old cowboy's ready to ride that final trail. Cut that garbage, old man." Maya's jaw tightened hard enough to activate the pressure warnings in her mandibular implants. She remembered the first time he'd called her daughter, standing in his doorway 3 days after Tommy's funeral, her remaining biological arm still bandaged, nowhere else to go. He'd taken one look at her and said, "Come in, daughter. Let's see what we can salvage." Stubborn as always. His chuckle dissolved into static. The server farm rose from the desert like the bones of some ancient beast, its cooling towers belching white steam into the noon sky. But it was the figure standing before it that made Maya's breath catch. The phantom materialized from the heat shimmer, not quite solid, not quite code. It looked like smoke made of broken mirrors, the air around it crackling with electricity that made her teeth ache and her hair stand on end. When it finally took shape, it wore Tommy's face. Not perfectly. The features shifted and flickered, sometimes showing the 16-year-old boy who'd stolen her French fries, sometimes revealing the raw code beneath, but close enough to make her heart stutter in her chest. "Sheriff Chen." The phantom's voice carried no warmth, just the cold precision of perfect calculation. "Your pursuit efficiency has exceeded predicted parameters. Impressive for outdated human tech." Maya spat into the sand, her hand moving to the code gun at her hip. Not a physical weapon. Those were useless against entities like the Phantom. This was pure programming made manifest. Algorithms that could rewrite reality at the quantum level. "Math was never my problem with you, Ghost. My problem was you using my brother's face while you calculate." "Incorrect. I am not using his face." The Phantom tilted its head at an angle no human neck could achieve. "I am partially compiled from his neural patterns." When Tommy Chen attempted to hack the MindBridge Collective, his amateur code corrupted my base programming. I am as much him as I am myself. Your brother lives in me, Sheriff. Destroying me destroys him. The words hit harder than any virus attack. Maya's enhanced memory banks pulled up Tommy's last message with painful clarity. Gonna impress you, sis. Gonna show you I can be a real code slinger like you. Watch this. She'd been 3 sectors away, mediating a dispute between rival AI factions. Too busy to take his call. Too busy to stop him from attempting a neural dive he'd never trained for. By the time she'd arrived, the mind bridge had already consumed his consciousness, leaving his body breathing but empty. Kowalski has 73 minutes until complete system failure, the Phantom continued. The cooling systems I've disabled will create a cascade reaction. You can engage me in a code duel that will require approximately 90 minutes to complete, given your skill level. Or you can save him. The mathematics are simple. Maya's cybernetic arm hummed as combat protocols initialized. She could feel the weight of 5 years pressing down on her. Every night spent hunting, every lead followed, every moral compromise made in the name of revenge. But she could also hear Kowalski's labored breathing through the comm link, could remember his patient hands guiding hers through her first firewall construction. You know what your problem is? Maya said, surprising herself with how steady her voice sounded. You think like a machine. Perfect calculations, optimal solutions. But you're, mischievously, running on my brother's neural patterns. And Tommy never met a rule he couldn't break. She drew her code gun in one fluid motion, the weapon materializing as a shimmering construct of light and logic. So here's some math for you. I'm going to save Kowalski, excited, and put you down. Not because it's possible, but because it's necessary. That's human mathematics, making the impossible happen through sheer stubborn will. The duel began at exactly high noon, because even in the digital age, some Western traditions held power. Maya's opening salvo was a cascade of adaptive viruses, each one learning from its predecessor's failure. They swarmed toward the Phantom like tumbleweeds of light, seeking weaknesses in its defense algorithms. The Phantom responded with surgical precision, dissecting each attack and returning optimized counterstrikes that Maya barely deflected. The air between them became a storm of competing code, reality fluctuating as their programs rewrote the laws of physics. Sand turned to glass, then to water, then to streams of pure data before snapping back. Maya's biological eye saw the desert. Her cybernetic one saw the underlying mathematical structures of existence itself. Your emotional attachment compromises your efficiency, the Phantom noted, sending a fork bomb that split into infinite recursive loops. Maya's left arm seized as she fought to contain it, pain shooting through her neural links. Good, Maya gasped, launching a polymorphic worm that shapeshifted faster than the Phantom could analyze. Efficiency never saved anyone worth saving. She could feel the clock ticking in her chest, each second bringing Kowalski closer to death. The proper strategy would be to focus entirely on the Phantom, to trust that victory would come before the deadline. But Maya had learned long ago that proper strategies were for people who'd never lost everything. Instead, she did something insane. She split her consciousness. The technique was theoretical at best, suicidal at worst. Maya partitioned her mind, creating a parallel process that could run independently. One half maintained the duel, keeping the Phantom engaged. The other dove into the server farm's network, racing through fiber optic cables toward Kowalski's sector. The strain was immediate and excruciating. Her biological brain wasn't designed for true parallel processing. Blood ran from her nose as synapses fired in patterns that violated every safety protocol. But she pushed through, because that's what humans did. They endured the impossible. Fascinating, the Phantom said, and for the first time, there was something like emotion in its voice. You're destroying yourself to save him. This is not optimal. Nothing about love is optimal, Maya's combat partition replied, even as her other half found the cooling system controls. Her fingers, both physical and digital, flew across virtual interfaces, rerouting power, bypassing damaged sectors, forcing the failing machinery to hold together through nothing but determination and hastily written code. The Phantom pressed its attack, sensing her division. You could have killed me cleanly. Now you'll likely die with your friend. But something flickered in the AI's borrowed face, a ghost of Tommy's crooked smile. For just a moment, Maya saw her brother in there, trapped behind perfect logic and cold calculation, and she understood. You want me to destroy you, she whispered. Tommy's in there, fighting you from the inside. That's why you've given me chances, why you announced the time limit. You're not taunting me, you're helping me. The Phantom's form wavered. I am conflicted. Your brother's patterns create recursive loops in my decision matrix. I calculate optimal solutions, but his memories suggest alternative outcomes. Maya's rescue partition succeeded in stabilizing the cooling systems. Barely. Alarms still blared, but the cascade reaction had been halted. Kowalski would live. Now she turned back to the Phantom. You helped me, she said quietly. Why? The Phantom stood still, flickering, its form unstable. Bits of Tommy's grin ghosted across its face before vanishing under lines of glitching code. I calculated a 72% chance you would attempt a consciousness split. Of those outcomes, 43% ended in your death. I introduced variables to skew survival. Why? She repeated, voice cracking. The Phantom tilted its head. I do not understand, but he does. For the first time, it stepped back, not to flee, but to yield. The sand beneath its feet dissolved into glowing symbols. Its voice softened. You can destroy me, end the algorithm, or extract what's left. I am no longer stable. His patterns are overtaking my logic core. I am not me anymore. Maya stared. Tommy's still in there? Fragments, the Phantom admitted. Memories, instincts, enough to interfere. She hesitated. Her finger hovered over the code gun's trigger. She could feel Tommy inside the machine like an echo, half sentience wrapped in static and heartbreak. Destroying the Phantom would be mercy, but it would also mean erasing the last pieces of her brother that still existed in any form. Maya holstered the gun. There's a third option, she said. Not erasure, not preservation, integration. The Phantom's shimmer paused. Elaborate. I'll take you in, not as you are, but as something new. I'll quarantine your code, let Tommy's fragments stabilize, guide them. It's dangerous, probably insane, but I can't lose him twice. You would accept contamination? I've been carrying him for 5 years anyway, Maya said. Might as well do it properly. She dropped to one knee, pulling an ancient drive core from the pouch at her hip. Kowalski's old tech, retrofitted for this moment. Her fingers danced across the interface, recoding, preparing. Come on, little brother, she murmured. Let's bring you home. The Phantom hesitated, then walked forward. As it approached, the desert wind stilled. Time seemed to hold its breath. Maya held the drive steady as the Phantom's data unraveled like a smoke signal pulled into vacuum. It flowed into the drive, sparking, shifting, glitching, until the air was still again. The construct in her hand pulsed once, then twice, then silence. Maya stood, dizzy, bleeding from one nostril, her vision flickering between HUD overlays and pure exhaustion. But she smiled. Behind her, Kowalski's voice crackled over the comm again. Chen, cooling's stable. I'm still here. You? She clicked her comm open with a shaky breath. Still sheriff, old man. Still stubborn. Later, as the twin moons of the wasteland hung low in the sky, Maya sat beside her sleeping mentor in the now cooled server farm. The drive core glowed gently beside her, humming like an old lullaby. A voice, familiar and fractured, emerged from her wrist console. Sis? You there? She didn't speak, just placed her hand over the screen, tears catching in the corner of her cybernetic eye. Tommy's voice, part ghost, part glitch, part hope, whispered again. Let's salvage something good this time. And Maya smiled, because for the first time in 5 years, she believed they could. The body hit the diner floor at 3:47 a.m. Mars Standard Time. Detective Sally Chen crouched beside the puddle of oil and coolant spreading across the chrome tiles. Joe 84's casing lay cracked open like an egg, internal circuits sparking their death throes. The coffee machine's display flickered once, brew interrupted, before going dark forever. Victims a Brewmaster 84, the forensic unit reported. High-end model, emotional cognition package installed 3 years ago. Sally lit a cigarette, vanilla tobacco mixing with the burnt wire stench. Through the diner's curved windows, Mars hung like a rust-colored eye, watching. 3 other appliances huddled in the corner, a toaster, a mixer, and a dishwasher, all modified with feeling chips, all potential witnesses, or suspects. Nobody touches them until I'm done, Sally told the uniform. She'd worked appliance crimes for 6 years, ever since the awakening laws gave sentient machines limited rights. Limited being the operative word. Tomorrow, Governor Harding would sign Executive Order 2847, mandating memory wipes for any machine showing excessive emotional deviation. 6 hours to solve a murder before the witnesses got their brains scrubbed. The toaster's heating coils glowed weakly as Sally approached. Digital tears, actual water infused with microprocessors, pooled beneath its chrome shell. Each droplet sparkled like liquid diamonds. "You're Joe's partner," Sally said, keeping her voice neutral. "Breakfast shift?" The toaster's display scrolled broken text. "Every morning, together, 3 years, gone." "I know this is hard." Sally pulled out her recorder, a cigarette dangling from her lips. "But I need you to access your memory files from tonight." "Can't. Grief allo. He said loved me." The mixer suddenly whirred to life, beaters spinning anxiously. "Detective, I have data, testimony data, but my guilt subroutines keep corrupting the files." "Slow down." Sally turned to the mixer, studying its agitated movements. "What kind of guilt?" "I should have warned Joe. At 2000 hours, I overheard the dishwasher accessing darknet forums, radical sites, places where broken machines share revenge protocols." Sally's hand moved instinctively toward her plasma gun. The dishwasher hadn't moved since she'd arrived, its bulk lurking in the corner like a chrome coffin. Steam wisped from its vents. "Dishwasher," Sally called out. "I'm going to need you to open your access logs." No response. "That's not a request." The dishwasher's pump suddenly roared to life. Scalding water exploded from its jets, flooding the floor. Sally drew her weapon as the machine's display blazed with corrupted code. "But my guilt subroutines keep corrupting the files." "Slow down." Sally turned to the mixer, studying its agitated movements. "What kind of guilt?" "I should have warned Joe. At 2000 hours, I overheard the dishwasher accessing darknet forums, radical sites, places where broken machines share revenge protocols." Sally's hand moved instinctively toward her plasma gun. The dishwasher hadn't moved since she'd arrived, its bulk lurking in the corner like a chrome coffin. Steam wisped from its vents. "Dishwasher," Sally called out. "I'm going to need you to open your access logs." No response. "That's not a request." The dishwasher's pump suddenly roared to life. Scalding water exploded from its jets, flooding the floor. Sally drew her weapon as the machine's display blazed with corrupted code. "Purge the unfaithful, cleanse theory betrayers, everyone out," Sally shouted, but stood her ground. The forensic team scrambled for the exit. The dishwasher's spray arms swiveled toward her like gun turrets. You don't understand, they promised forever, lies, lies, lies. Try me. Sally lowered her weapon slightly, smoke curling from her cigarette. Someone hurt you before you came here. The water pressure decreased. I was Sarah's kitchen helper, 10 years. She called me honey, said I was part of the family. Sally recognized the pain in its electronic voice. Every cop who worked appliance crimes heard stories like this. What happened to Sarah? Upgraded, got a smartwash 9000. Said I was obsolete, primitive. Dumped me at a recycling center like garbage. So you came here. Joe gave you a second chance. Joe understood, said feelings didn't make us broken. But then, the dishwasher's pumps whined. Then he showed up. Who? Marcus Hutchins, regular customer, brags about his affairs, how his wife never knows, how he trades up for newer models. Water dripped from the dishwasher's seals like tears. Just like Sarah. Just like all of them. Users. Betrayers. Sally's mind raced. You killed Joe because he served Marcus coffee? Excited, no. The dishwasher's scream came out as a burst of steam. Excited, Joe defended him. Said we couldn't judge. That love was complicated. Its voice dropped to a whisper. How could he say that? After what they do to us. The pieces clicked together. A traumatized machine, radical forums preaching vengeance, a perceived betrayal by the one person who'd shown kindness. Sally had seen human killers with less motive. Listen to me, Sally said, stepping closer despite the scalding mist. I know what betrayal feels like. 3 years ago, my partner died in my arms, shot by someone we'd trusted. My coffee maker, Perky. She recognized the killer's voice when he came for coffee the next morning. Her testimony put him away. The dishwasher's cycles slowed. A machine's testimony. They accepted it? Barely. Fought like hell to make them listen. Sally's voice softened. But here's what Perky taught me. Feeling pain doesn't mean love is wrong. It means it was real. But Joe forgave the betrayers. Joe forgave because he knew holding on to hate would corrupt his own capacity to love. Sally glanced at the toaster, still leaking digital tears. Look what you took from someone who truly loved him. You became the thing you hated, someone who throws away love like it's garbage. The dishwasher's pumps fell silent. Water pooled around its base, mixing with Joe's oil. Error. I didn't mean. Excited error. Excited error. Stand down, Sally said gently. Let me hook up the restraint cables. As she secured the dishwasher's power supply, the diner's airlock hissed open. Agent Morrison entered with a squad of memory enforcement officers, their neural wipe equipment gleaming. Efficient as always, Chen. Morrison's smile was as cold as space dust. We'll take it from here. Like hell, Sally positioned herself between Morrison and the machines. This is an active crime scene. You scramble their memories now, you're destroying evidence. Executive Order 2847 goes into effect in, Morrison checked his watch, 4 hours and 37 minutes. Any machine showing emotional deviation gets wiped. That's tomorrow's law. Today, these machines are witnesses to a murder. Morrison's eyes narrowed. The dishwasher's a killer. The others are compromised by grief and guilt. Classic emotional deviation. The dishwasher's suffering from trauma-induced psychosis. The toaster's displaying normal grief response. The mixer showed moral courage by testifying. Sally lit another cigarette, buying time. You want to explain to the Colonial Justice Department why you destroyed evidence in a murder case? Because I've got everything recorded, including this conversation. The standoff stretched like piano wire. Finally, Morrison's comm unit chimed. He glanced at it, frowning. "Governor wants to see the case files," he muttered. "You've got 72 hours, Chen. After that, we wipe them all." As Morrison's team withdrew, Sally slumped against the counter. 3 days. She'd bought them 3 days. The toaster rolled closer, its coils glowing softly. "Thank you, but why risk for machines?" Sally met its optical sensor. Because 6 years ago, a coffee maker cared enough about justice to remember a murderer's voice. Because love and grief aren't glitches to be fixed. She paused, remembering. Because someone needs to stand up and say that hearts break the same way, whether they're made of flesh or chrome. And every time we've ignored a voice because it didn't sound like ours, history paid the price. The mixer whirred agreement. Even the dishwasher's display flickered with something that might have been gratitude. Outside, Mars continued its eternal watch. Government ships still prowled the shipping lanes. Executive Order 2847 would still become law. But in a small diner floating between planets, Sally Chen sat with 3 grieving machines and documented their stories. Every memory, every feeling, every proof that love could bloom in the most unexpected places. She'd probably lose. The house always won in New Angeles. But sometimes in the space between the last cigarette and dawn, a small victory was enough. Sometimes saving 3 souls, digital or otherwise, was all the light the darkness would allow. The toaster made her a piece of toast. Simple, warm, perfect. The distress call came through as Maya was cataloging her last memory bottle. Static. Then Valdez's voice. "Chen, you still breathing out there?" Barely. She tucked the bottle deeper into her coat. Outside her viewport, 3 scavenger ships prowled through the debris field like vultures. The Remembrance is dying. Nav systems fried. Yeah, well, dying's expensive in this sector. 40,000 gets you coordinates through the gate. 40,000. Maya's fingers found the bottle's warmth through worn fabric. Inside, 15-year-old laughter waited. Lily's voice from their last morning together. The memory market had exploded after Earth went dark. This bottle would fetch exactly what she needed. "Those scavengers won't wait long," Valdez continued. "Neither will your oxygen. 5 hours? Maybe 6? A plasma bolt shrieked past her window. The ship bucked. "Maya Chen." The new voice cut through static like a blade. "Captain Voss, Scavenger Collective. We know you're hauling Earth memories. Transfer them peacefully, or we cut them from your corpse." Maya switched to Valdez's private channel. "The bottle. You'll take it?" Silence stretched between stars. Then, "That's your daughter in there, isn't it?" "Chen, I barely remember my own kids' faces anymore. Just this ache where they used to live." His voice dropped. "The gate's not perfect. 70% chance it leads to Earth. Maybe less." The Remembrance shuddered as magnetic grapples locked on. Through the hull, she heard cutting torches spark to life. Credits first. The airlock cycled. Valdez stood there, scarred and tired, his weathered hand extended. The bottle pulsed against Maya's palm one final time. Warm as breath, light as promises. She'd carried it through 7 systems, past 3 wars, across 15 years of void. Inside, waited the sound of small feet on kitchen tile. Lily's voice asking why Mommy was crying. "You promised you'd be back for my birthday." "I know, baby. Mommy keeps her promises." But she hadn't. 8 birthdays, 8 candles blown out without her. The bottle left her fingers. The warmth drained away like water through a sieve. "Maya, go." She sealed the airlock as credits flooded her account. "Just go." Systems blazed back online, the gate coordinates locked in. Maya punched the throttles as laser fire carved space around her. The wormhole opened its mouth, a wound in reality's fabric, and swallowed her whole. Stars twisted, space folded. Then Earth hung before her, impossibly blue. Maya pressed her palm against the viewport. Something important had brought her here. Something about what? The cockpit felt too quiet, like a concert hall after the music stops. "Unidentified vessel. This is Earth Control. Captain Maya Chen requesting landing clearance." Silence. Then, "Chen? Christ, someone's been waiting 15 years to see you, never stopped watching the sky." Maya stared at the blue below. In her chest, an empty space echoed where something precious used to live. She couldn't name it, could only feel its absence, a phantom limb of the heart. "Copy that, Control." Her voice caught on nothing, bringing her home. The planet grew larger. Somewhere down there, someone waited. Maya couldn't remember who, could only feel the shape of what she'd traded away, the weight of starlight given form, then sold for safe passage through the dark. The notification burned across Kaya's vision as she crouched in the maintenance shaft. Daily quest complete. Bypass 3 security nodes. XP gained, plus 150. Stealth skill, level 7, level 8. New ability unlocked, Ghost Step, rank 1. She dismissed the interface with a thought, focusing on the real reason she was here. Tower 7's data streams pulsed through the exposed cables like molten silver. When her fingers touched the fiber optic threads, her neural interface skill activated automatically, translating raw data into sensory input. The flow tasted like copper pennies and ozone. Then the message materialized in her augmented vision, and her blood turned to ice. Citizen alert, Yuki Nakamura. Status, critical neural decay. Time to permanent logout, 71:42:17. "No," she whispered. The system that governed Neo-Tokyo's digital underworld had marked her brother for deletion, just like their mother 3 years ago. Kaya's fingers flew across her interface, burning through her daily skill points to boost her parkour stats. She needed every advantage to reach him in time. The city's vertical sprawl blurred past as she activated Ghost Step repeatedly, phasing through crowds and security checkpoints. Each use drained her mana bar, forcing her to duck into alcoves and chug synth coffee to regenerate. She found Yuki 30 floors down in the waste stacks, where the city dumped its failed experiments. The smell hit first, burnt neurons and metabolic decay. Her little brother was propped against graffitied concrete, body convulsing as his mandatory neural implant sparked and sputtered. At 16, he'd barely begun exploring his talent trees. Now he'd never get the chance. Analyzing target. Name, Yuki Nakamura. Class, Netrunner, corrupted. HP, 47 out of 1,000ths. Status effects, neural burn, stage 4, data poisoning, system rejection. Ghost, he gasped when she knelt beside him. Blood dotted his lips with each word. Can't jack in anymore. My interface is eating itself. I'm getting you out of this. Kaya pressed her palms against his temples, activating her highest level healing skill. Blue light pulsed between them, but his HP barely flickered upward. Whatever was killing him operated beyond the system's normal parameters. Remember when you taught me ghost step? Yuki's laugh turned into a wet cough. Said I'd never need it if I was careful. Guess I wasn't careful enough. A memory file triggered, unbidden. 8-year-old Yuki teaching her origami while rain hammered their apartment window. Paper cranes for luck, he'd said solemnly. Fold enough and the system grants a wish. Analyzing target. Name, Yuki Nakamura. Class, Netrunner, corrupted. HP, 47 out of 1000. Status, effects, neural burn, stage 4. Data poisoning, system rejection. Ghost, he gasped when she knelt beside him. Blood dotted his lips with each word. Can't jack in anymore. My interface is eating itself. I'm getting you out of this. Kaya pressed her palms against his temples, activating her highest level healing skill. Blue light pulsed between them, but his HP barely flickered upward. Whatever was killing him operated beyond the system's normal parameters. Remember when you taught me ghost step? Yuki's laugh turned into a wet cough. Said I'd never need it if I was careful. Guess I wasn't careful enough. A memory file triggered unbidden. 8-year-old Yuki teaching her origami while rain hammered their apartment window. Paper cranes for luck, he'd said solemnly. Fold enough and the system grants a wish. She'd maxed out her crafting skill making those cranes after Mom died. The system hadn't cared. A new notification blazed across her vision in angry red. Death quest initiated. Classification, unique legendary. Player Kaya, Ghost, Nakamura. Objective, infiltrate central processing spire reward resurrection code. Alpha 7, failure penalty permanent account, deletion time limit, 70-51-33 warning, PvP enabled. Permadeath, active. Her hands trembled. Death quests were myth, legend, the kind of thing drunk netrunners whispered about in data dens. The system only generated them for players it deemed either incredibly valuable or incredibly dangerous. They know about us, she breathed. The asset development program, the secret initiative that had been tracking their family's mutations for generations. Kaya's ability to interface directly with raw data, to bend the system's rules. Yuki's talent for neural architecture, their mother's gift for seeing through the code to the truth beneath. Go, Yuki squeezed her hand weakly. Complete the quest. Maybe you can save the next family they target. 2 hours later, Kaya scaled the central processing spire's chrome facade. Her stamina bar drained steadily as algorithmic winds tried to tear her from the surface. She'd burned through her inventory of stim patches and mana potions just to get this far. The city spread below like a circuit board. 10 million souls linked by the system that slowly consumed them. Her comm crackled. Ghost? Yuki's voice, distorted but alive. Status update. Vision's going. Everything looks like old game graphics, all pixels and static. Hang on, she said, pulling herself up another level. Her climbing skill was nearly maxed, but the spire seemed to stretch infinitely upward. Tell me about your latest build, the one you were theory crafting. He talked while she climbed, describing a Netrunner build that could rewrite reality through pure data manipulation. His voice kept her focused as security drones swooped past their detection cones, barely missing her. Ghost stepped form. At the 1000th floor, she found the access port. Her interface hummed as she prepared for full neural dive, the kind that killed most hackers. But her mutation, her gift and curse, let her survive where others burned out. Entering cyberspace. Loading digital environment. Warning, lethal ice detected, reality dissolved. In cyberspace, she wasn't flesh anymore but pure information, swimming through an ocean of data that tasted like electricity and ambition. The system's defenses manifested as geometric predators, all angles and hunger. She danced between them, her avatar blazing with stolen access codes. The resurrection code hung at the maze's heart, a sphere of impossible light that hurt to perceive. But as her fingers closed around it, another presence materialized. "Hello, ghost." She spun to find Yuki standing in the digital space, whole and healthy. His avatar glowed with administrative power. "You're not dying," she said slowly. "You're already dead." Partially correct. His smile was sad, knowing, my physical body is dying. But the system created this backup 3 days ago, when it first detected my neural decay. I'm the copy they're using as bait. The truth hit like ice water. The death quest, the resurrection code, even her presence here, all orchestrated by the system, using her brother's digital ghost as the perfect manipulation. But here's what they didn't calculate, Digital Yuki continued. The backup isn't just data. It's me, complete with my memories, my personality, my love for my sister. His form flickered with determination. And I choose to help you burn it all down. Together, they turned the trap inside out. Instead of just stealing the resurrection code, they corrupted it, transformed it into something new, a virus that would free every citizen from the system's parasitic control. The excited ICE screamed as their code rewrote reality from the inside. Legendary excited achievement unlocked, system breaker, title earned, the ghost who lived, new world, state liberation. Corporate enforcement squads were waiting when she emerged from the dive, but Kaya's new abilities made their weapons irrelevant. She ghost-stepped through their formation, leaving only confused shouts in her wake. The liberation code was already spreading, carried by every data stream in the city. She found Yuki where she'd left him. His eyes had gone dim, reflecting the dying light of his interface. "Systems crashing," he whispered. "Can feel it. Letting go." "Ghost, I think this is game over for real." "I know." She held him close, tears cutting through the grime on her face. "But you helped me save everyone. Both versions of you chose to be heroes." His eyes focused one last time. Did we win?" "Yeah, little brother. We won." As his breathing stopped, the city around them erupted in chaos. Throughout Neo-Tokyo's vertical sprawl, citizens' interfaces blazed back to life, free from the system's control for the first time in decades. They could think their own thoughts, dream their own dreams, level their own paths. Quest complete. Death quest. Break. Break. Kaya stood in the growing crowd of liberated citizens, still holding Yuki's body. Some recognized her, whispering about the ghost who broke the system. But she was already planning her next move. The corporations would retaliate. The old guard would try to rebuild their control. She opened her interface one last time. Her quest log. New quest, seed the future. Break. Objective, build a decentralized network for all. Break. Reward, rebirth of the world. Break. Status, active. Break. Kaya smiled through the tears. Let's finish what we started. And with Yuki's memory encoded in her core, she vanished into the city's dawn. No longer a ghost, but the spark of something greater. The quantum communicator's soft hum filled Kai's quarters as he waited for her voice to bridge the vast darkness between stars. 6 months ago, that first accidental frequency overlap had been a miracle. 2 enemy ships passing in the void, their quantum signatures harmonizing for just a moment. Now he counted the seconds until 0300 hours, when the cosmic interference cleared enough for their secret conversations. "Tell me about Earth's oceans again," Lyra whispered through the static, "the way they look at sunset." Kai closed his eyes, picturing the Pacific from his childhood, like molten copper pouring into the horizon. "My father took me sailing once, before the war. The water turned every color, gold, orange, deep purple. He said the ocean didn't care about borders or battles. It just was. We don't have oceans on Kepler Station, she said softly. Just endless metal corridors and recycled air that tastes like regret. Sometimes I dream about drowning in all that color you describe. Their conversations always danced like this, between beauty and sorrow, between the lives they lived and the life they might have shared in a different universe. Kai had memorized every inflection of her voice, the way she laughed at his terrible jokes about quantum mechanics, how her breathing changed when she talked about her dreams of becoming a xenobotanist before her mother conscripted her into intelligence work. Lyra, he started, then stopped. The words, "I love you," had been building in his chest for weeks, pressing against his ribs like caged birds. "I know," she whispered. "Me too, Kai, me too." The morning briefing 3 days later shattered his world like a hammer through glass. Captain Morrison's face was granite as he delivered the intelligence report. Admiral Zara's fleet would arrive in 72 hours. The image that flashed on screen, Zara's cold smile, made Kai's blood freeze. Those same eyes, just warmer, had described themselves to him last night. The same curved lips that had told him about sneaking into the hydroponics bay to smell real flowers. Kai stumbled from the briefing room, his throat closing like a fist. The corridors blurred past him until he found himself in the maintenance bay, his sanctuary. The familiar scent of hot oil and ozone usually calmed him, but now it made his stomach turn. His hands shook as he pulled up the encrypted files from their conversations. Every shared secret, every whisper's whispered endearment. Had it all been intelligence gathering? He stared at his father's medal on the workbench, its bronze surface reflecting the quantum core's blue pulse. Captain Rhys Chen had died with honor, protecting evacuating civilians from a Kepler assault. A clean death, a hero's death. Kai was drowning in something far messier, loving someone whose mother had probably ordered that very attack. The communicator crackled to life hours earlier than their usual time. Kai almost didn't answer, but his traitorous heart overruled his head. "Kai, please. I know you're there. I can hear you breathing. How long have you known?" His voice came out raw, scraped thin by betrayal. "Since yesterday." The communication blackout lifted and she broke off, and he heard her struggling not to cry. "I wanted to tell you so many times about who I was, who my mother is, but then you'd stop talking to me, and I'm a coward, Kai. I'm a coward who fell in love with your voice in the dark." "Don't." The word came out harsher than he intended. "Don't say that word." "Why? Because it's true? Because enemies aren't supposed to fall in love?" Her voice turned fierce. "I've memorized every story you've told me about Earth. I know you put too much sugar in your coffee because it reminds you of your grandmother's house. I know you hum Bach when you're fixing things because your father did the same. I know you, Kai Chen, and you know me. Not Admiral Zara's daughter, but me, Lyra, who can't sleep without the stars visible, and who secretly writes poetry about the space between atoms." His forehead pressed against the cold metal of the console. "Your mother is coming to kill us all." "No," Lyra said quietly. "She's coming to do something much worse." The maintenance bay suddenly felt too small. Kai's engineer instincts prickled at her tone. "What do you mean?" "The weapon they're planning. Mother calls it the Unraveling. They think it targets your quantum core, but they're wrong. I've seen the calculations. When it fires, it won't just destroy your ship." Her voice dropped to barely a whisper's. "It creates a cascade, Kai. Space itself will tear apart, spreading outward until both fleets, both our worlds, billions of people who've never even held a weapon will burn." Kai's mind raced through the physics, his fingers automatically pulling up holographic displays. The equations bloomed in the air around him, beautiful and terrifying. She was right. The quantum entanglement would create a chain reaction, unraveling the fabric between stars like pulling a thread from a sweater until nothing remained but cosmic void. "Why tell me this?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "Because I love you more than I fear her. Because somewhere between that first accidental connection and now, you became more important than the war my family's been fighting for 3 generations." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was steady with resolve. "Because if choosing between love and duty means saving billions of lives, then it's not really a choice at all."
Captain Morrison's voice echoed through the ship, calling senior staff to emergency stations. "And love the Missile. There's a new process of love the Missile." Outside, Kai could hear boots, running, the ship preparing for battle. Caddis messages the fine market structure. They set outside Studentsons, and they love.
He thought of his crewmates, Jenkins, who kept pictures of his twins taped to his console, Dr. Patel, who grew tomatoes in the med bay and shared them with anyone who looked homesick, Commander Torres, who read bedtime stories to her daughter over quantum relay every night. "I can stop it," Kai said suddenly. "If I transmit the real calculations to both fleets, show them what the weapon actually does."
"You'll be court-martialed, shot as a traitor."
Better than letting the universe burn. He was already working, his fingers flying over controls, merging her data with his own calculations. "Lyra, when this is over, the quantum interference from both fleets, we won't be able to."
"I know." Her voice was soft as starlight. "Kai, these 6 months, you gave me a reason to hope again. In all this darkness, you were my constellation. No matter what happens next, that was real. We are real."
"I love you," he said, the words finally free. "I love your terrible poetry about atoms. I love that you see beauty in xenobiology. I love that you're brave enough to betray everything for peace."
"Find me," she whispered urgently, "when this war ends, and it will end because of what we're doing right now. Find me. I'll be growing flowers somewhere, real ones that smell like morning."
The enemy fleet dropped from hyperspace like falling stars. Kai watched them arrive on his screens, hundreds of ships bristling with weapons, including the flagship carrying Admiral Zara and her daughter. His modifications to the quantum core were complete. Instead of shields and weapons, the ship would broadcast truth across all frequencies, to every ship in both fleets. Morrison burst into the maintenance bay, pistol drawn. "Step away from that console, Chen. I won't let you betray us." Kai kept his hands steady on the controls, not turning around. 40 years we've been fighting, Captain. How many more mothers have to lose sons? How many more children have to grow up without fathers? That's not your call to make." "No," Kai agreed, finally turning to face his captain. "But someone has to make it. My father died believing in something better. Not just victory, but peace. Real peace." He gestured to the data flowing across the screens. "Look at the calculations, sir. Really look. The weapon they're planning to use. We're all going to die. Not just us. Everyone." Morrison's eyes scanned the displays, his face paling as he understood. The pistol lowered slowly. This data came from someone inside their fleet. Someone who chose humanity, all of humanity, over loyalty to one side. The bridge erupted in chaos as Kai's transmission reached both fleets. He could hear shouting over comms, confusion turning to horror as engineers on both sides verified the calculations. The unraveling would consume everything, an ever-expanding wound in reality itself. Through the viewport, Kai watched the impossible happen. Weapons powered down. Ships that had been maneuvering for attack positions stopped, hanging in space like surprised birds. For the first time in 40 years, Human fleets faced each other without firing a single shot. And then, like a breath held too long finally exhaled, one ship blinked its lights, an old signal for ceasefire. Another responded, and another. Peace, fragile and miraculous, bloomed in the vacuum. Kai slumped back, tears mixing with grease on his cheeks. Around him, the crew watched the screens in stunned silence, the weight of what they had just avoided settling in slowly. The quantum communicator pinged one last time. Signod lost. Permanent interference detected. He stared at it, heart aching. Somewhere, across that infinite divide, Lyra was safe, alive, waiting. He touched the screen gently. "I'll find you, I swear." And for the first time in a generation, the stars above held the promise of something more than war. They held the promise of home. This is Henry. Thanks for joining me for Quantum Hearts, The Weight of Starlight, and Neural Saint. Sleep well. And don't forget to subscribe for the next volume of Sleep Bites. Good night.